Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Ears Podcast. As always, I am your host, Uncle Danny. Alongside of me is Mr. Chris. Chris, how are we doing on this fine evening?
Hey, I am doing awesome, and I hope you are as well. And I hope all of our guests joining us today are just having a fabulous day. I hope you had a good weekend, nice long weekend for many people. And by all means, one thing I have to say is I'm hoping everybody is had a good time shopping. Black Friday. I know I did some light damage. I didn't do much shopping over the Thanksgiving weekend. I'll admit I did a lot of shopping online because I don't like lines. So there you go.
Employed, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, well, all I know is that I think between FedEx, UPS, and the Postal Service, I'm definitely going to be keeping people employed for the next few weeks. All I know is I get packages every day from all sorts of places that I've ordered stuff from because I am almost done with my Christmas shopping already. So I can actually enjoy the holiday.
Yeah, so everybody over here at BTEP would like to hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving, relaxed, went out, got some good times. But let's get rolling here with episode number 36. And for anybody watching, obviously we're going to do this live right now, but we will be releasing this tomorrow. It will be our news segment. We have a lot of things to touch on today that happened the past week, past 2 weeks. More importantly, we also have a little bit of a sneak peek of our new Disney movie that was just released, Moana, that Chris was able to go see. Unfortunately, I was not able to go see it yet, but I digress. Chris, since it seems to be the most pressing topic of new Disney stuff, that's going to be fun and light, why don't we start off with you and give us a little quick, no spoiler for Moana?
Oh, no problem at all. And as Danny mentioned, I don't do spoilers in my reviews or anything like that. I am a movie buff at heart, and to give out spoilers would just be a bad thing. I don't like spoilers. I even hate to read reviews even before I go because I always find that, quite honestly, half the time I don't agree with the reviewers. Not that I'm saying, I'm not saying that I'm great at reviewing movies. There have been a lot of times where movie critics would say, "Hey, this is great," and I'm like, "Wow, this was a waste of $15." And then there are a lot of times I would say, "Hey, I think this movie is great," and it totally bombs at the box office or something like that. But anyway, I did get a chance to see Moana. I saw it Saturday late morning, and was there with both my wife and my two kids, and I thought, if I catch an early showing, it won't be too crowded. And I was wrong. The theater itself was actually pretty packed. And, but, and I'll admit, I because I'm a movie buff and I love to go see the show, there are times I kind of wait usually until like the second or third week it's in because then nobody's there first thing in the morning. And, I can almost have a theater to myself. It's kind of nice. So we got there early, grabbed ourselves a supersized tub of popcorn with, basically a quart of butter-flavored 5W30 on it. And
oh, my God.
Yeah, it was really bad. It really does look like butter-flavored 5W30 motor oil. I kid you not. So, yeah, with every tub of popcorn, you get a free angioplasty. I will say, first off, I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to start with some of the trailers. I will tell you this. I actually saw the new Cars 3 trailer that just came out last week. And if you haven't seen that, go out to YouTube and take a look at it. All I got to say is that the audience in the theater was silent afterwards. I mean, you can almost hear a pin drop. And
it is a pretty dark trailer, though.
It is, and it was even darker when you see it on the big screen. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is more real than I first thought. When I first saw it, I mean, I commented on Facebook that I had chills, and I did. And afterwards, I saw that I'm like, oh man, but it was quiet. And the funny part about the whole thing is that it was the last trailer they showed in the series of trailers before the show. And I'm like, oh, what a way to end it, you know? And it was, I mean, seriously, I mean, you could almost hear a pin drop in the theater. I mean, even with all the little kids and stuff that were in the theater, it was like, wow. Anyway, so yeah, go take a look at that trailer, because it's, I mean, if you're a Cars fan like I am, you know you have to go see it. I leaned over to my wife afterwards. I said, that's a good trailer, because no matter what it's about, you are going to go see that in the theaters when it comes out later in 2017. I will tell you this: the movie does have a short film before it, like many from Walt Disney Animation Studios as well as Pixar, kind of continuing that tradition. That movie was, if I'm not mistaken, it was called Inner Workings, and it was adorable. It was really funny. It was cute. We all laughed. It was only a few minutes long. My daughter, who happens to be a pre-med student, was like, "Oh, that was awesome!" And so that was a film. I won't give you a spoiler on that either, because it really is cute. You really should go ahead and see it. You know, it is one of those things that's well worth it. So definitely get your popcorn pop, bathroom break, and everything else, for the end of the trailer series, so you can actually sit back and enjoy that short film. So I'll admit, there wasn't too much about Moana that I knew about before I went ahead and actually saw the movie itself. I've only seen a few of the trailers. I refused to actually read any of the reviews, kind of as I alluded to earlier. And so I really didn't have a good, solid idea of what the plot was, or any of the background before it. So I was kind of going, in fact, my whole family were like, we have no idea what this movie is really about. And we're all like, yep. So we had really a clean slate, no preconceived notion of what it was going to be about. So I have to say, first and foremost, that from the very opening scene, the animation was stunning. Absolutely stunning.
Let me ask you something real quick.
Yeah.
Is it Avatar good?
Because
I mean, at the end of the day, that's really what most Disney fans are going to base great animation off of, and it's going to be straight.
That's a good question. That's a very valid question too, if you ask me. While they are different types of animation, where Avatar is a capture motion type of animation, where the different actors and actresses they had reflective dots in their face, and they had cameras all over the place, and the motion were captured off the reflection of the dots and then translated by computer into an animated drawing type of thing. Versus Moana is your more, I'll call it, semi-traditional animation by computer, where I say semi-traditional, where I consider traditional as hand-drawn animation, which we don't really see anymore in major films. I'll tell you that the detail in the animation, I thought was, if you want to compare the two, it's a good benchmark. I'm thinking back just a minute, it ranks right up there. I mean, the detail in the hair, the water, just all the motions of the motions of all the different characters was awesome. It's not photorealistic. I mean, you still know that you're watching an animated film, but it really is actually it's absolutely stunning. The soundtrack itself also is just wonderful. I'm going to tell you right now, and I don't think this is too much of a spoiler if it's anything. It's a musical. There are musical aspects where plot is explained by musical numbers. Now, I'm saying that now, and I'm sorry if that is kind of a spoiler, because I remember when I saw Frozen, I had no idea that it was going to be a musical type number. All of a sudden you have, Elsa singing everything. You have Anna singing everything, about plot. And I didn't realize that. But the question Amanda is asking right now, did Moana have a lot of sing-alongs? You know, I think only time is going to tell on whether or not they're going to be sing-along worthy. And I say that, what?
Well, I don't know. I mean, do you want to build a snowman? I mean, I've never seen the movie, and I know that song. Just saying. I just throw it out there.
Well, I think the music is a lot more. I think the music is a lot more complex than, say, Frozen, because I mean, Frozen I think had a lot of really good songs just like that. You know, they're sing-along songs. They're earworms. You know, they stick in your head. You know, and there's, I mean, let's face it. There's how many jokes have you heard about the song? You know, using the term "let it go." You know, that's. I mean, it's just it's one of those things.
I use it in everyday life.
Yeah, he's like I sometimes tell people, I go, listen, just pull an Elsa. Like, what? Just let it go. So, but I will say that I think the songs have a little bit more depth. And actually, here's a point of reference. If you have ever heard a soundtrack that was done by Phil Collins, so think back to Tarzan, think back to Brother Bear. You know, when Phil Collins was kind of a go-to person for a lot of Disney's soundtrack, you know, vocals, so to speak, it kind of reminded me of that kind of real deep, really awesome lyrics and singing, even though it was not Phil Collins. Let me make sure that's clear. But it was really awesome music. So now a few points of it. Somebody asked me the other day, excuse me, someone asked me the other day, you know, whether or not there were any intense parts in it. There's a couple small intense things, but you know what? There are a lot of little kids in the theater, and the interesting part to it was the kids didn't seem to get scared by any of it. So take that at face value. It was very well done. I didn't think it was too scary. As I said, there's only a couple small parts to it. Now, the movie itself. Now, I don't know all the backing to this, but it tells a story that is supposedly based on. Gosh, I'm going to probably get this wrong, and I certainly would appreciate being corrected if need be, but I'll call it, you know, cultural folklore. You know, Polynesian cultural folklore. You know, different types of a story that's based upon that. And it was really awesome how they kind of went into some detail in the beginning about, you know, some of the different characters that show up later outside of Moana herself, such as Maui's character, Maui being played by, you know, Dwayne Johnson. And I will say that the voice characters were spot on perfect for each person that played their role. I'll tell you that right now. And Dwayne Johnson was hilarious in it. You know, in the sense of just how he does it. I'll tell you, there is some cultural significance. I think back a while ago, you and I, Danny, talked about the cultural significance of the tattoos and how Disney kind of got a little bit of
they got peer pressure.
They got killed for it. I was going to call it just pure pressure for undoing a costume or taking out a costume that had a lot of tattoos portrayed, you know, on tan skin. In regards to, you know, Maui, his character, and so on. And I think a lot of people didn't quite understand that. And I think I sit back a little bit and I kind of think back to what I put in my blog post over at Common Sense Disney. And I think I'm going to stick with what I said. You know, they explained it from a cultural perspective on how those tattoos are, you know, all those tattoos tell a story. The cultural representation, how they are earned rather than just, you know, inked, so to speak, given. So that was kind of interesting how they actually did that. I think I appreciated that whole situation a whole lot more just knowing the background behind it. I will tell you that I think that Moana is a princess. But at the same time, I think she's kind of the anti-princess because she doesn't really want to be known as a princess, which I thought was kind of funny. It was kind of interesting how they did that. The characters build relatively quickly, so it's not like it's going to take forever and ever and ever for the character to build up. You will understand the plot very easily, although there are some parts that I thought there was a lot of detail in the sense of the plot, the story, the characters, some of the background. And I thought this is more for the adults than, say, a 6-year-old child. The 6-year-old isn't going to quite get the one-to-one correlation of all the, some of the background behind it. And that's okay because it happened so quickly. It wasn't like it was a 15-minute diatribe on some of the background behind it. It was, 3 minutes maybe. But it was really, really good. So I'm going to go ahead and say from Amanda asks, hey, did Moana have any other Disney movie represented within the movie? For instance, how some people included Frozen, Tangled, and Tarzan. No, I didn't see any. I didn't really see anything there. Someone told me that there was supposed to be a hidden Mickey. I didn't see anything like that.
You're saying there's no golden eggs in there anywhere?
I don't think there are any Easter eggs that I saw, but keep in mind, I usually see those in video, and
8 times later, I finally find out that there's something there.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I saw Inside Out, I saw it when I saw it finally the second or third time. I'm like, oh, did you see that? Wait a second. In fact, I also saw like Finding Dory last night as well. And I don't, not to go on a totally different diatribe, but I saw a lot of different ones in there that were represented. And in fact, I think my wife even made a comment that she thought there was kind of a subtle reference to Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Wow. My wife or my daughter and I kind of debated with her, like, no. So I don't know, maybe the case. But back to Moana, I don't recall seeing references to other characters going through, like what was it, Belle walking through the town square of Hunchback of Notre Dame. Yeah, I didn't see anything like that. But again, I'll have a better chance of seeing that when I actually see it the second time. In fact, my wife and I were like, I'd like to see that a second time. And I'll tell you this right now, cutting partially to the end, this will end up as a part of the collection of the Gus Mann Omniplex. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, it will be part of my collection later. That's how good it was. I mean, I will get it on Blu-ray, and I will definitely preview it to see if it translates better to the home theater setting, because my home theater setting is actually better than my local theater, which is really pretty bad. But still, I mean, it was an awesome experience. I will tell you that the movie is like 150 minutes long, nearly 2 hours long. The last 10 minutes are pretty much credits. We were laughing at some of the credits just because of there. I won't give it away, but there were a couple categories of cast, or not cast, but like supporting crew and stuff like that were actually pretty funny. And there is no spoiler because there are people that already pushed this out there, and there's sites to tell you, but there is an ending. There is an ending scene at the very end. And so go ahead and stay all the way through the credits for that. Besides, the soundtrack for the credits was even awesome. And, but ultimately I think the story, really shows the perseverance that Moana has in order to, accomplish something. I think she did it in a way that showed her as a strong female character. Granted, Maui was a help to her type of thing, but it wasn't like I don't want to go down the idea of Elsa was very independent of what she did in Frozen. Okay. Moana did have some assistance, but it was kind of an independent type of assistance, if you kind of catch my drift, in Maui, so there is a difference there, really, but it was really good. It showed that she was able to, accomplish a particular task, work through issues, just kind of really getting to the edge of whether or not she should continue doing something. But ultimately, I mean, I never once felt like, oh gosh, I've got another 20 minutes left of this movie. Maybe I can go to the restroom now and whatever, get a refill of my 3-gallon cup of soda or whatever like that. So it was like one of those things. Now, how many stars out of 5 I'll give it? I'm going to tell you right now. Rarely do I give out 5-star ratings. Rarely do I give out 5-star ratings. But I'm going to give this one a solid 4.75 stars on a 5 scale.
All right, I'm glad you didn't go straight 5.
No, I really rarely would that happen, but I honestly think this is a must see. Go see it in the theaters, enjoy it. I know there's an IMAX and a 3D version for it. I would have loved to see it in 3D. I would love to see it in IMAX. I bet you that would have been absolutely stunning with the animation that I saw. Problem of it is that 3D movies, my son and my wife are not big fans of, the full length 3D movies. I mean, they can handle a 3D movie such as PhilharMagic in the parks, for 10 minutes at a time. That's okay. But for close to 2 hours wearing, 3D glasses and stuff like that, it doesn't jive with them all that much. So we rarely do we actually go see a 3D movie of that side. So it's one of those things.
No, Rebecca, I was not able to go see it this weekend. Plan is for the upcoming weekend to go see it. So he gave you his first impression. It's going to sit for a week, so you're going to see a lot of critics out there giving them what they want, and then boom, you're going to get me next week real quick. Now, Chris gave the longer version since you guys already heard it. Next week, I'll just cut it down a little bit shorter, give you any little cliff notes that I happen to see. So, you have anything else you want to add about Moana?
All I have to say is that, right from the very beginning, Walt Disney Animation Studios has been, they've been really working hard to raise the bar in animation. It started in 2007 when they came back with, Meet the Robinsons, was one of their first comeback films as an entity. And, they've been really hitting it out of the park. And you know what? This really ranks up there. I mean, seriously, between like Big Hero 6 and Frozen, Wreck-It Ralph, seriously, really, really good stuff. This ranks right up there. Well worth your hard-earned, theater money budget. Go out there, grab a bucket of popcorn, some Mike and Ike's, whatever your poison is, and just enjoy that show. So go see it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so we're going to go on to our next little tidbit we have here. All right, I wrote a couple articles throughout last week, and you're going to see a couple that come out this week. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview because they all basically are newsworthy in many people's opinions, I guess. So the first one is wrote it the other day, released on Saturday. Basically, it was a study was conducted on when to go and when not to go to Disney. And here's the funny tip. I always thought you'd say, okay, you want to go. Most of the time when I tell people go midweek. If you can do it, go to Disney Monday to Friday, and understand Friday's going to be a little busier. But, midweek is always going to be busier than the weekends, due to the fact of you have more people coming that are local into the parks. Well, I was wrong. I don't know what to say. I'll admit it. I don't admit this a lot, so you heard it here. I'm sorry. I was wrong. They did a study in 2016, this year, back in August, and they were there for the entire month of August, and they were also there for other major holidays. And Sunday was actually the lightest day out of all week to go inside to Disney. And the busiest day was Wednesday, which I was kind of shocked. With that being said, just quick overview. Basically, the gentleman that did this, he's the head digital officer at SAP Digital, and they their information was gathered from research that was conducted during their new digital consumer insight data device, which basically tracked the demographic of people in certain areas of the park using their phones and checking about, how many times you logged onto your Disney Magic app or anything. Anytime you hit their Wi-Fi or their internet, it was basically able to give them a general idea of where people were in the parks at what times and on what days. It's not 100% accurate because there's no way to physically prove anything like that. But just a quick little idea of what was going on. Okay, even though it is highly thought that between Christmas and New Year's Eve is supposed to be the busiest, in actuality, the week of Thanksgiving is 3 times larger than any other time in the year. So the week that we are currently in right now is 3 times busier than, and you hear about, you can't touch Magic Kingdom on New Year's Eve. That's crazy. And to think that's 3 times bigger this week that we are currently in right now, that's out of control. That's a lot of people.
I don't get it. I mean, I was really stunned when you posted that in our blog over at BehindEarsPodcast.net. I was like stunned. I'm like, really? Because I mean, I knew that it kind of built up to Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was a huge crowd time, and then it kind of, right about now, it's going to start to dwindle up until about the 15th or the 18th of December, and it starts building, and then all of a sudden, boom, Christmas. Big, huge crowds. And Christmas is going to be a big crowd since Christmas is on a Sunday this year. And now, the year or the week after Christmas, between that and New Year's, I guarantee it's going to be big. But I wonder if it's big just for the day, or are they also referring to like the entire crowd time, Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's? Because that's what you have to really worry about.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because number 2 on the list is the most crowded day recorded in 2016. Was July 4th. Now, granted, Christmas Day has not hit yet, so that number could fluctuate after Christmas, but surprise, surprise, I would have said New Year's Eve, but no, they're saying July 4th was the busiest day recorded last year. During a 4-week study, like I said, Sundays were the time to visit in terms of high crowd volume in the park. Tuesdays and Wednesdays were visited the most. Comparing just Sundays to Tuesdays, there was a 40% reduction in attendance from Sunday to Wednesday, or Sunday to Wednesday.
I totally believe that.
I thought Wednesday would be on the 40% lower. You would think middle of the week, you're not having the locals in that park. You're only having people that are traveling there.
Yeah, but what's happening is,
I know what you're going to say.
The thing is, okay, Sunday's a big departure day. That's one thing. So you got a lot of people there that they may start off busy, and then it's going to dwindle off. Then it's going to dwindle off between Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, people start coming back in because they want to try to get some time in before the weekends. So you probably have, and this is me guessing. I'm not, I didn't do any analytics with this, but you've got people guessing that Wednesday, Thursday, up to Friday, you're going to be lighter crowds, so it's automatically going to build. Just because they're all thinking that. Not to mention, it's kind of cheaper to fly in the middle of the week to get to your location, and then boom, the weekends are going to be busy. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because you're also dealing with those who are local, and then so it's different types of busy. I don't know if they actually split that out between local, people who are local who are busy versus people who are from out of town. And when I'll say out of town, let's say more than 2-hour driving distance.
That's an interesting way to look at it, because really that would be a very hard way to figure out the demographic of who's from where. Without literally I guess checking every ticket or magic band that enters through the gate and then digging through the that can get time consuming, and at that point it's kind of like you're drawing straws here. But out of the 2 water parks, no surprise, Blizzard Beach was the least crowded. I'm not really, everywhere I hear Typhoon Lagoon, everybody loves it. They prefer it more. It's not that it's not like they dislike Blizzard Beach, but if they're given the option, they're going to Typhoon Lagoon.
Mm-hmm. Wave pool, man. Wave pool. Simple as that. I like Blizzard Beach. Don't get me wrong. Seriously, go to Summit, Plummet. Woo-hoo. But Typhoon Lagoon, you got a wave pool there that constantly varies throughout the day. That place rocks.
Yeah. And lastly, the highest foot traffic recorded in 2016 was through downtown Disney. And I solely believe that is due to the fact of all the refurbishments they did in Disney Springs. Yeah. They made it a hotspot, and I give them credit for it. They really did. They made it a place desirable for people who want to go and get away from. And I used to say this, to get away from the crowds, go to downtown Disney. Mm-hmm. According to stat, you're going into the crowd.
Oh, I'll tell you right now. There was one time I was, in the area for a meeting, and I did go to at that time downtown Disney just to hang out for a few hours and have dinner, and it was pretty much right around. It was like the week before Thanksgiving, not the week of Thanksgiving, but the week before Thanksgiving, and it was crowded. It was really crowded. Now, I found out later that they were also doing the Funai Classic golf tournament at the same time. So I'm sure that probably had an impact on the crowds as well. But it was a very, very busy time.
Yeah, Desiree had asked. She may have missed it, but you didn't miss it because we didn't talk about it. What do you think is the best time to go? This is everybody's going to have their own opinion. For anybody who doesn't listen to us, basically the show slug, I like to call it, is everybody does Disney different. And in all aspects, it really does. So I'm going to break it down to different categories. If you're looking to be there around the Halloween time to see the autumn colors and all the different decorations they have, and maybe not have the blaring heat of the summer, and this is a big one, this is a big part, and if you want to participate in the Wine and Food Festival, I recommend that last week of September, first week of October, that, give or take a few days here and there, that to me seems to be a prime time to go. Any time in February, besides the Valentine's Day week, anytime during February. I've been there all different times of February. There's not many people. Let me rephrase it. The parks are still the parks. I mean, people are still going to travel to Disney, but if you want to, especially because the climate is actually pretty reasonable down there, basically anytime in February and March. March, you run the risk of, it can get kind of rainy down there in March, and the weather is very hit or miss. I've been there in March where it's been 60 degrees. I've been in March where it's been 90 degrees. The good thing about March is you can hit the Flower and Garden Festival. One of our avid listeners, Megan, she'll be down there in March. I'm looking at doing our first BTEP trip down there in March. The summer, Chris is going to have to really comment on the summer. He's more of a traveler in the summer. And with my job, I stay away from the November, December, January, not only because of my job, but a lot of people go. I mean, you have to remember, I would love to figure out the numbers on this, but a lot of people who enjoy Disney and travel to Disney are teachers. I know so many Disney fans that are teachers. So, I talked to some of the teachers, and I try to find out. I had actually asked a teacher last night, when is our area, New Jersey, when is their spring break? And she told me, and I was like, perfect, not going that week. So Chris, why don't you touch on the summer months?
Well, we do go into summer. Now I've done all 3 months of the summer in different times. And I'd say the earlier in the summer months, the better. Because as soon as you hit Memorial Day, things do get busier, and the weather does get hotter. And when you add busy plus hot, you get, frustrated. The thing is that after we did our first summer trip, we gained some new perspective. And we realized we had to do Disney differently, because we were used to actually going late September or even, mid to late October. And, we did that because we were able to pull our kids out of school when they were young, when my daughter was younger. The thing is that, summertime, earlier the better. That's my opinion. It's still going to be busy. You're still going to get really crowded times. And that's when you have to plan. When you have to figure out something like, using a tool such as like touringplans.com or something like that. I know I've plugged them before. I'll plug them again. I stand by what they have. It's good stuff. August, especially in the middle of August, you're getting everybody that's out there that's trying to do the last chance type of thing. But it's hotter than the hinges of Hades. And, it really is. I mean, seriously, you'd probably think that the devil is a next door neighbor. It is that blazing hot. You know, the heat plus the humidity, it sucks the life out of you. It really does. Um, but yeah, so I would say that if you have younger kids that are not really in school yet, you know, the mid to late September is a great time to go because it's still nice and hot, but it's not as miserable. But the crowds are starting to drop a bit. You know, October until mid October, still actually good times to go. But here's also, and I also agree with you, Danny, about the February. Been in February, really good time to go as well. Also, right after New Year's, so like right as most students go back first of the year, that's a really good time to go. Let me also throw this out: DVC members. The best time they end up going is usually when our point values are down. So it's that's something to take into consideration as well. So if you're trying to, like, say, rent points or get a DVC villa, you got to think the opposite, because most of those places are going to be booked when it's off peak time or during the Flower and Garden Festival, the Food and Wine Festival, all the different festivals, especially those that are in Epcot. So
Yeah.
those are just some things to consider.
Desiree, if you want to tell me privately or whatever, just let me know when you're going in March. There might be a chance can meet up, get a drink, say hi to everybody. Haven't seen you guys in a while. All right, so let's go on to our second topic. It is another article that I wrote. This one is my pride and joy. I've had several people. Actually, it was one of our most hit articles written on the page so far, and it's only been out for a little bit now. It is lengthy. I will say that it is not your typical blog post. I would more consider this as almost like a news article. But there was a lot to it, and I tried to keep it just to the facts without basically, slamming everybody with all nonsense and everything like I'd like to write about. So I tried to keep it a little bit honest, and I cited everything so everybody understands that a lot of this is from my own math and my own background and my own knowledge. But a lot of it, I'm one of the people, Chris is one of those people, we give credit where credit is due. So some of this stuff was pulled from other articles, and there are people out there who will be like, no, I made it all the way up myself. That's not what we do. But anyway, I digress. This next topic we're going to touch on is the Hong Kong Disneyland is going to be removing their castle. And some people out there might be like, why is this big news? Well, this is big news because it's never happened in Disney history. No one has ever taken down a castle inside Disney. And at first, it didn't really make sense to me. So, without sitting here reading everything piece by piece to you, I'm just going to give you a brief description on what's going on. Basically, the Disney we know now was not the Disney of a decade ago. Disney is a powerhouse. It is, their stock is growing. It is one of the most highly talked about stocks on the market. If you turn on, any news channel, they will tell you that when they're talking stocks, Disney is actually at a low point right now where people want you to buy Disney stock. That's how powerful they believe Disney is. Well, back in 2005, Disney was still trying to rebound from the 9/11 terrorist attacks. And what those terrorist attacks did is they hindered not only our economy, but they hindered travel inside our country. And Disney Disney was in the middle of building hotels when this happened. They were talking about major expansions, and everything kind of got brought to a halt. So to give you a brief idea of what was going on September 12th, 2005, this is the day that Hong Kong Disneyland opened its doors to the general public. Disney company stock was at $25.16. Now you're going to ask me, why is that a big deal? Well, exactly 11 years later to the day, so September 12th of 2016, the stock had rose up to $93.86. You're talking about, if my math was right, the stock rose almost $69. That's a 300% gain on your stock in 11 years. I don't know anybody that's listening, that's watching, that's participating. That is huge stock increase. So what does that have to do with anything? Well, that's one aspect of it. Let's look at the other aspect of it. Is Michael Eisner was still in charge in 2005. But Michael Eisner was on very, very, very thin ice. And when I mean thin ice, like you throw a pebble, he was sinking. he was the main reason why Hong Kong Disney was built. But on that same aspect, they wanted to cut so many corners because Michael Eisner was also the reason why Disneyland Paris was built. And if anybody, is into Disney history like we are, 1992 is when Disneyland Paris opened. Until this day, it has never met the numbers that they anticipated for. Not saying it's not a good park. Chris's daughter has gone to Disneyland Paris. I know people who listen to the show that have gone to Disneyland Paris. I've never personally gone, but from the research we've done, it's a great little park. It's a little bit smaller, but it just never hit the numbers that they were anticipated. So when Eisner had approached Disney and said we should build one in Hong Kong, they kind of were on board because they saw that there was a market for it, but they were afraid that it was never going to live up to what it was going, these parks are expensive. These parks are expensive. So they were afraid it was never going to live up to what it was. So basically, the whole idea was Hong Kong Disney was going to get an exact replica of the Disneyland California castle, which is the Sleeping Beauty themed castle. Well, it was actually rumored that they were only supposed to put the facade of the castle on the front. The whole backside was going to be hollow, almost like you would see on a movie set.
I did not know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. And now let me ask you this, Chris. The other day, we were going through and there were some people, and Chris was almost one of them. Not so much, but he brought it up. People freaked out about Mickey bars going up 50 cents. And you're going to say to me, what does that have to do with anything? Well, let me tell you. Think about it. What happens if Shanghai said, yeah, we're gonna put a Sleeping Beauty castle, but it's going to be hollow. You can't go in it, can't do nothing. On the backside, it's just going to be cardboard. People would lose their mind. They lost their mind over 50 cents going up on snack prices. Could you imagine if a brand new park in 2016 would have said that?
Again, I think that's all about the expectations, though, too. I mean, because people, guests are thinking, "Hey, we're going to be able to walk through the castle, and we're going to, be able to, do something and be a part of it, and this, that, and the other." So to have something that's just mainly a facade, I'm so glad that didn't happen. I mean, don't get me wrong, one bit, but it's just like that. That's just. That would have been terrifying in a way, and I'm using the term terrifying. I think that would have been a horrifying mistake of making something fake like that. Because think about it. Main Street USA looks so real, even though a lot of us know that there's a use of forced perspective. I mean, it looks like there are people that could be on those second floor, apartments and things like that. I mean, it's the detail. So to have a 180 of those details, to have something cheaped out would have infuriated, diehard Disney guests.
I mean, at the end of the day, they didn't do it.
Which is great.
They actually made a full castle, but it is not only rumored. It is there's proof of this, scattered around different news sites that. There's very, very little interior in it. Some of the rooms they're not even rooms. They're just empty shells of the part of the castle. But it is an exact replica of the outside. And I know a lot of people were a little torn on why build a new park with an exact replica when you have all these different princesses that you could have had themed. But like I said, 2005, things were a completely different time. I've actually seen people reference the year 2005 as the dark ages inside Disney. And I go back to 2005 and I'm like, really? But I
never caught that.
Good.
No, I was going to say, I never thought that, but at the same time, that was right at the same time that I was just starting to, be the kind of guest that's starting to make multiple trips per year and this, that, and the other with my family and so on. I didn't necessarily see that. Maybe I saw it through, a different type of, different shade of sunglasses, so to speak, but I never thought that myself.
Yeah. I mean, I was still on the borderline of becoming a bigger Disney fan at that point. So, but now I look back and you look back at some of the decisions, and I'm going to be very honest with you. I was a Michael Eisner fan. I still am. I think what he did for the company, we're still showing, great gains from some of the things he did. Now, did he make some bonehead decisions? Oh, absolutely. I mean, he can't make every fan happy. It's just impossible. But, I'm happy that Disney company at least allowed him to still be able to be a part of Hong Kong Disneyland being built. Now, right. Did some of the reasons of him building it, do we have these issues we have now? Maybe. But let's fast forward a little bit and we'll jump over to June of 2016, and the big brother, essentially, that it shouldn't have been, but it ended up being the big brother to Hong Kong Disneyland opens, and that's Shanghai Disneyland. And anybody who knows anything about the Shanghai, and if you don't, I'll tell you right now, no shortcuts were taken. There was no penny was wasted. They did not do anything. They went above and beyond, from their castle to their entrance to the opening day ceremony to food options. How could I put this without sounding terrible? It's a fancy new Disney World, because out of all the parks, I still think Disney World is the most dominant. Shanghai might pass it, but that's only because it's new and shiny. I think within the next 5 years, now with Shanghai getting some updates already, I can't believe it. And now Hong Kong getting all these updates, it might get a little bit closer. But with Disney World getting, Toy Story Land, Avatar, Star Wars, Disney World's not, it's not in rough shape. Anybody out in the, West Coast, I apologize for Disneyland's just really not growing for you guys. But hey, you get cars, we don't. So that's pretty cool. So basically the whole point was, what led Disney's company to decide they want to tear down this castle? Could it have been money? Could it be the fact that Shanghai opened up and it was supposed to be the little brother to Hong Kong and it ended up being the big brother to Hong Kong? Because when it comes down to money, Disney's printing money faster than they can use it. I mean, they're spending money and the ink's still wet on the paper. There is no money loss inside Disney company at all. So the big question is why, why is this exactly happening? And I actually have a statement from Bob Chapek. He is the chairman of the Walt Disney Parks and Resorts, and it says, "We are more excited than ever about the future of Hong Kong Disneyland. We are bringing the best of the Walt Disney Company to this wonderful tourist destination, giving guests from around the world an experience only Disney can deliver, and an experience that they only have with us here in Hong Kong Disneyland." That was almost like a politician answer. He really didn't say anything that we didn't already know. So with that being said, Hong Kong Disneyland's taking down their castle, first time in Disney history. It's going to be interesting to see what comes with it. Now, there is a lot of stuff that I did not touch on the article, and I'm not going to touch on here because it's still rumored. But the latest thing I saw was there are going to be major expansions inside Hong Kong, and there's a rough estimate of like $1.4 billion.
Billion. Wow.
Billion with a B. So,
and I've heard some different things as well, like such as they're not going to take it down, but they're going to add to the, make it like go higher. But I don't know. There's several other places. I mean, I've seen so many different things. I don't know. I don't know exactly what to believe, but there is one thing I will say about Disney. There's been a lot of times where, you probably won't know until it happens. And even then, everything is subject to change. And I'm not saying that in a negative manner. It really is just the kind of the way it is. There has to be some magic to, left in your imagination. So let's see what turns out.
I mean, they have the best backdrop, though, if you ask my opinion. Not saying that Disney World or Disneyland doesn't have a nice backdrop, but it is, everything around here is man-made. In Hong Kong, their backdrop is actual mountains. Yeah. Like, that is beautiful. And if you guys don't know what I'm saying, you can Google it. You can go on behindthearspodcast.net, check out the articles that we just talked about. The main picture is actually the Hong Kong Disneyland castle, so you can see what I'm talking about with the actual mountains. But with that being said, both of the articles we just talked about, you can find them both at www.behindthearspodcast.net. You can also find all our archive shows over there. You'll be able to download any new shows. So that website definitely seems to be the way to go. So, Chris, what other news do we have for them today?
I'll tell you the truth. I think some of the news, I think I got a lot of questions over this past week, just people on the side, talking about, one of the new fests that's going to be coming into downtown Disney, which I'm actually starting to look into a little bit more. I will tell you also, as a part of news, is that they have the new spectacular drone show over at downtown Disney. I'm going to have a hard time still getting used to that. Over at Disney Springs, I keep on seeing people that are streaming that show, which is happening a couple times a night over there, and it's so fabulous. It
It's
just
getting
looks
better and
stunning.
better.
It is. I mean, it's almost like these drones are learning. um, so, I mean, people have been talking about that still, but I know that we're also going to have some additional news as well as more mailbag conversations coming up. And the mailbag conversation for this next week, I've been getting a lot of other different types of questions, not just for trip planning. So you definitely want to tune in later this week for some additional conversation that comes from our listeners. And we really appreciate that.
Chris, do you want to touch on your one blog post about the magic bands, since we have not been able to talk about that live?
Oh, that's true. That's actually something I did want to bring up. Thanks for reminding me. The Magic Band stuff, there's the new version of the Magic Band and it seems to be coming out. In fact, it was recently released to those that were D23 members that were attending the Destination D conference that just recently happened down at Walt Disney World. Basically, there's been some talk about what is the next generation of Magic Bands are going to look like. And these are going to basically include what looks like a Magic Band that would almost have like almost like the base of it would look like it had an integrated watch to it in a sense of size, but no, there is no watch. The cool part about it is that there is a removable or transferable RFID puck on the inside, probably about the size of, maybe a quarter or something that would, fit on your wrist, so to speak. That with just a few screws, you can actually take it out, put it into a different color Magic Band, or a different Magic Band with a different style. Now, this is going to actually do several different things. One, there's going to be less waste from having, dozens of Magic Bands, for your trips. You can interchange them a whole lot easier. I personally think it's going to make management of Magic Bands within My Disney Express a whole lot easier. Because I know I look at my Disney Express, my particular version of it, and there are just dozens of Magic Bands to pick from. Then you got to figure out which one's which. This will simplify that. This will also make customizing your Magic Band experience a whole lot better by just buying the casing for for having a particular design or whatever, but you still have that same RFID puck that's on the inside. I think it's going to be more environmentally friendly. I think it's going to cause less waste. I think it's going to allow a better chance for people to want to customize Magic Bands. You most likely will still be able to pick out different colors and so on, but this just makes it a whole lot easier. It's the same type of technology. You're going to have the ability for, especially if you're a resort guest, to charge back to your room, use it as your media, use it for your fast passes, use it for your memory maker. They'll have the ability to do the long range RFID stuff, like recognizing you at Rock and Roller Coaster or other places.
Small World.
What's a Small World? Also, where did I hear Small World, Haunted Mansion, Rock and Roller Coaster? There was also somewhere I just saw today that they were doing that as well. So I mean, all those different things are all still going to be a part of it, but now you're not necessarily going to have to, have dozens of Magic Bands acting as Christmas tree decorations. Which, well, that reminds me. My Christmas tree went up today, so I guess I'll have to go get those Magic Bands anyway. So I think that's actually really cool. Now, let me go ahead and mention one thing. For those of you who are new to the Magic Bands themselves, I want to let you know that for the RFID technology, no personally identifiable information is stored on the chip. Okay, it's not that way. So if someone stole it, or it fell, or if it, you lose it, there is nothing in that they can decode and say, hey, now I have your credit card number and everything else like that. No, it goes to a back-end server and it's a secure type of database and so on and so forth. And at the same time, it's really a good, safe system. Besides, to purchase anything, you have to have a PIN. So you're still going to be safe. I don't have any issues with it wearing them, and I'm kind of a security geek, between work and at home and stuff like that. So that's all good. So look forward to that. It's actually they're going to start phasing them in the month of December of this year, and it's going to become more and more commonplace starting the first of the year. So I think that'll actually be pretty exciting. So if you happen to start taking a trip, it's after the first of the year, and you get some of the new next generation Magic bands, we'd love to see pictures, and we'd love to hear your impressions of them. You could always drop us a line at behind the ears podcast at gmail.com. And I paused for a fact in between almost trying to clear my throat. Sorry about that, everybody. So yeah, I'll just say it's paused for effect. Drop us a line with it. Send us some pictures. We'd love to hear what you had to say about it. If you want to talk about it on the show, let us know. We'll see what we can do with that as well. So yeah, Danny, that's the wonderful world of the new next generation of Magic bands. I really can't wait to see them. I have a feeling that it's going to open up. You don't like them? I think it's going to work out great.
I think they're too thick.
No, wait. Too thick as in too big on the width-wise?
Too wide, width-wise.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I mean, quite honestly.
Yeah, I have to see them in person.
I mean, the current Magic bands are about the size of a Fitbit. But then now everybody's wearing bigger and bigger things like that. You can't. Granted, you're right. I don't like a big watch on my hand either. Like I would never be able to wear, say, an Apple Watch because it's big, kind of too big on my wrist. I don't like that. It's one of the reasons why, I wear the kinds of watches I wear because they're thinner, lower profile, and so on. So you're right. I don't know how they're going to look. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I always like trying something new anyway. And then, I'll make my decision after I've tried them. But as long as their functionality is the same and it's easy to interchange, and as long as it simplifies my life within my Disney experience, that's the big thing. Because I will tell you this, I think a lot of problems people have with, Magic bands itself is because of my Disney experience and not having everything associated properly. I don't think we've been on a trip yet where we haven't had to go to the front desk and had them work stuff out with Magic bands. And it's usually because we have more than one reservation, because we usually split stays, and we have multiple Magic bands, and I just think there's some limitation to it. Now, that's not a criticism, that's pure observation. And I think, we started using just one Magic band, and we just use it for our entire trip. And if this kind of simplifies it, I'm all for it, and I think that's the right move.
We'll see what happens there, I'm not going to knock anything till it happens. The last little piece of information I wanted to touch on was, did you happen to see it? They snuck it in. Disney's so sneaky. They snuck in the fact that Wine and Food Festival is going to be pushed back 2 weeks. So it's now going to start in August.
Well, okay. I mean, it's kind of, we're starting. I mean, I guess you could say, if you wanted to eat in a bit, deep heat, go right ahead.
It's a slippery slope they're getting into, though. I already hear people tell me the Flower and Garden Festival, that runs in the springtime, is basically turning into a wine and food festival with flowers.
A true statement.
So if they're extending 2 weeks into there, and now all of a sudden you have a few weeks and it's kind of like, at that point, what do you get? Like, what is the significance of going at that time of year? It's kind of like, I feel like Epcot's slowly just going to turn into, it's going to be wine and food festival all the time, which I'm not going to complain about it. But then it's kind of like, well, then what is going to be your other party that you're going to offer during those months? Because then you need to put something in there.
Well, it's interesting you say that because, I know that there have been some hints, and I'm doing a little bit of research on it for talking on one of our next episodes about, some of the upcoming changes to Epcot, and not just referring to, some of the things that have already been, published out by different media outlets and so on, like, Ellen's Energy Adventure closing, Guardians of the Galaxy coming in, and so on and so forth. I haven't read everything, and I kind of want to really touch on this in another news episode here in the near future. But, supposedly there are going to be some changes coming into Epcot, and I don't know if it's going to totally encompass this type of festival focus in a way. But we're just going to have to see about that because hey, I don't necessarily mind I don't necessarily mind the festivals. However, when I think it starts, I'm hoping that doesn't start taking away from what Epcot is supposed to be. I mean, even my son today, he's like, Dad, Epcot is supposed to be, the, experimental prototype community of tomorrow. I mean, that was what it was really intended, Dad. I'm like, yeah, I totally get it. Some things have to change, but now it's about that. And I think my biggest complaint about it, and I know this is going to sound really weird and really petty, is I just think all the different booths actually, especially the ones that are like along the walkway around World Showcase, the ones that are closer, that are like that border the lagoon itself.
Okay, yeah, the left-hand side. Well,
right.
Depending on which way you walk.
Yeah, right-hand side as you're walking clockwise, left-hand side as you're walking counterclockwise. I just think that in some cases it takes away from good viewing areas for Illuminations, which, let's face it, we all have our favorite viewing areas as it is, and Illuminations is extraordinarily popular. I love it, probably my favorite. It does kind of take away from that, and it causes things to get a little crowded. Maybe
with that being,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to kind of ramble on for a second. I'm like, this is where the Wonders of Life Pavilion could come into play for some of these things for minor festivals, or, revamping, certain things in order to, make it still festive. I don't know. It all depends.
Now, if you took out the little kiosks and you put them all in, and anywhere else, or even if you put them inside the actual building, imagine the traffic that would be caused, the log jams. I feel like the lines would be that much longer.
Oh, like inside like Wonders of Life Pavilion?
Yeah. I think because that would just be chaos. Or if you put it actually in the country, like imagine trying to walk up and down, we'll say Mexico. Try walking down those stairs in Mexico when you've had a few in you're full, and now you're carrying a couple margaritas up and down. I'm just saying. I think everything should be on a flat surface. Keep everybody nice and flat.
Yeah, I can see that as well. But speaking of which, we are approaching that time of the year where, basically we're going to have all the Christmas time storytellers come out around World Showcase. And I think that's a really good time that if you're going to be heading out there, spend some time over there and listening to the different storytellers. Keep in mind that some of the countries, they tell a story about Christmas in their own way, and there are some places that tell stories that are related to the season, not necessarily Christmas itself. I will say that China and its story about the Monkey King, that's awesome. You got to go see that. Take time to go around to all different countries. Each one of their little storytelling is about 10 to 12 minutes or so. And then they also give you a time to take pictures with those that are telling the stories. It's really something awesome. So give that a chance as well. It could take you a good day to do that. So make that a part of your plans. And I think you'll totally enjoy it. So we'll probably talk a little bit more about that because I've done that. I'm actually going through some video from the last time I was there, and we're on those lines. And but yeah, you're heading up for the holidays. Make it a point and let us know how you like it. So, Danny, that's all I got today for news and happenings.
All right, yeah. I mean, there's so many more things we wanted to talk about, but one thing at a time. We will just get by with what we did today. We still did an hour. I mean, I can go on for all day. I do want to say, thank you all for tuning into another episode of Behind the Ears podcast. Thank you for all the new faces on here. Normally, we go live over on Chris's page. We wanted to try to do a little experiment, trying to get a different audience, live over on my page. So, keep an eye out. Even if you don't see us go live on my page, you will always get all the notifications. If you would like, please go on YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So anytime we go live on YouTube, you will get it. Also, if you go over on Behind the Ears podcast on Facebook, you can always catch us over there. And if we go live on either of the pages, if you like our Facebook page, you will get a notification then. Also, one last thing, we want to say a special happy birthday to a fellow show host, Mike, over at Be Our Guest Podcast. It is his birthday today, so happy birthday, Mike, from everybody over here at Behind the Ears. And yeah, thank you all once again for tuning into another episode of Behind the Ears Podcast. I am Uncle Danny, and I am signing out.
And I'm Mr. Chris. Thank you once again for joining us on our magical adventure. And we hope that you have a wonderful and magical day. And we can't wait for you to join us again soon. Take care.